This episode is sponsored by Victory Grips. Victory Grips are the standard in hand protection, plus they just launched their new gym affiliate program. As affiliate owners, they understand the demands of gym owners. Their goal is to keep their gym referral program process as simple as possible. You'll receive educational content, early access to upcoming releases, and exclusive discounts for your members, plus received a percentage of the net sales. Find out more at victorygrips.com. Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Chad Vaughn, and on today's episode, we have Stephane Rochet. Now, out of all of the guests that we've had on the podcast up to this point, Stephane has probably been with CrossFit HQ as an employee longer than anyone, having started in the mid-2000s. He's coming up on almost 20 years working with HQ in some capacity. Comes from the strength and conditioning world, having worked with a lot of different sports teams and university teams over the years, transitioned that background into CrossFit, and has slowly started to expand his roles within HQ. He's really excited to be able to take on a new endeavor as the host of the upcoming CrossFit podcast, and he has some other really cool things that are kind of in the pipeline and the education side of things within the organization. Our philosophies, our ways that we approach movement really aligned here in terms of technical understanding before you move into something a little bit more intense. I love talking with Stephane about these things in terms of how he envisions the education side of CrossFit continuing to expand. I really hope that he's able to make it out to Power Monkey Camp at some point, because I think it'll be a great fit for him to be able to see what we do within our community. But I hope you guys enjoy this one. If you have not met Stephane yet and you do not know him, this is one that you got to listen to. Enjoy.
Hey, yeah, man, it's been so long. It would probably been like 10 years, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
I was curious if you guys had met, because Stephane, you've been around the community so long now. I'm curious, when was the first time you guys actually?
First time we actually met was at that CrossFit course, wasn't it, in San Antonio?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Maybe this should be part of the podcast. So I don't know, Dave.
Yeah, just let it go.
Yeah, we're good. It was early 2010. I believe it was January of 2010 there in San Antonio. That was my CrossFit level 1 certification. So had just, learned what CrossFit was in mid 2008. I was training for the Olympics, and my coach at the time had just started teaching weightlifting classes in a CrossFit gym. And this was at CrossFit Plano, I think one of the few first affiliates back in the day, and then fell in love with it and knew I was going to come back into the community at some point after things settled down from the Olympics, and finally came back around. And yeah, that was where it was, 2010 in San Antonio.
That was awesome. So I had the pleasure of teaching Chad Vaughn the air squat and the PVC front squat and the PVC overhead squat.
Oh, so you were one of the L1? You were one of the L1 instructors at Chad's first L1? Amazing.
And,
well, it was funny because
he did all right.
I think I did okay. I think I was wearing my weightlifting shoes the whole weekend. I think I wore my weightlifting shoes the whole weekend. But no,
even Ursula, doing the gymnastic stuff.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, Ursula was there as well, and when they were teaching us the snatch and stuff like that, they're like, "You here, take the PVC pipe, and you guys can just teach it." But it was,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
No, it was good.
Can you explain that to the listeners who Ursula is too?
Ursula is just a longtime member of the weightlifting community. She's was a lifter back in the day on many world teams, coached a lot of athletes through the years, most recently, and her biggest role in the weightlifting community now is kind of on the government side. She was for a period the international weightlifting vice president. She was interim president there for about a year as well, and now she's in the process of seeing which position she's going to be elected into again. So
wasn't she also the most important role maybe of all? Wasn't she Jody's coach?
Well, yes, you're right there, Dave. That forgive me, that is the absolute most important role of her life right there, and it's still ongoing to this day. So yeah,
I love it.
And you guys were such good sports. I tell people all the time, if anybody's like, we're just doing an air squat, I'll be like, you know what, there was an Olympian in the same circle, and he just worked his butt off and didn't say anything. I mean, for a guy who this was, he was world class at this. You guys were awesome. Great sports at it. So it is great having you guys there for sure.
And we're just jumping right in, talking about some stories when you guys first met, but I think it gives some insight into, obviously, Chad, how long you've been in the community, but Stephane, you were already an L1 coach back, 2008, 2007. I think you started with CrossFit. You've been around longer than most people. Can you just give a little bit of background as to how you found it? And you come from more of the strength conditioning world. How did you find it so early on?
I was a strength and conditioning coach at the University of Indiana, and Mike Bergner somehow got connected with Greg Glassman. And so Coach Bergner started sending me workouts saying, hey, there's these guys up in NorCal, they do this stuff, try this workout out. And so I would try it. And then he would send my time to Josh Everett. And then Josh Everett, who was coaching at Riverside, University of UC Riverside at the time, he would do it and beat my time. So then I'd go back and try and beat him. And then Josh would throw down and crush it. And we were done. And then it was on to the next workout. So I did that while I was at IU for about a year. And then when I came home from IU and I became a police officer, I still did the USA weightlifting courses with Coach Bergner. He would do them once a quarter, roughly, down at his high school in Southern California. And Greg Glassman signed up for that course and brought his staff down after his interactions with Coach Bergner. And when he came down with his staff and we put them through the course, they invited us up to Santa Cruz to do an L1. So I did my L1. I think it was 04-ish, around there, when it was still the 3-day course. No real plan. It was, hey, if there wasn't anything going on, let's work out type thing. So yeah, that's how I got started.
Unbelievable. That's coming up on 20 years now, man.
Yes.
There's a handful of people that can say that they're L1 2004, man. That's a badge of honor right there.
Man, it was a blast. It was fun.
Obviously there's been a lot of changes over the course of that time, but specifically, I think over the course of the last year and a half, 2 years, there's been some even wider changes, tons of things going on within the internal side of HQ. And you've been sticking around there. And I think you're taking on a bunch of new roles now within the company. Can you talk about what your position looks like right now and what you're anticipating doing within the near future?
So right now I'm on the content side of producing content for education. It used to be called training, so we call it training education. The director or the general manager, the boss of education, is Nicole Carroll. So it's producing educational content to support our affiliates, our coaches in their endeavors as they're the ones at the ground level changing the world and coaching the actual athlete. So we're providing material to help them in that endeavor. And right now, so when I first came on, one of the first projects I was involved with was the nutrition course. We hadn't had a nutrition course at CrossFit for years. We had the original one that Rob Wolf taught, and then he stopped teaching that, and then there was nothing really. We tried a few times, but one of the big goals was to get that at least launched and then go from there. So we got that done. I think it was November last year. And then from there, now my new project is we're going to try and copy you guys and get a podcast going. So yeah,
Nice.
It'll be the CrossFit podcast, hopefully. And goal is, again, education and another big goal is I think something you guys do really well is bringing communities together, experts from all over that can just lend information and knowledge and techniques and everything that a coach can use. I mean, there's so many different things out there that a coach can use, and from mental training to, the physical stuff, nutrition, and on and on. So it's trying to bring experts from all those fields together and just give knowledge to our community.
That's exciting. And you're going to be the host. Is that correct? You'll be the
until they kick me off.
On the mic.
Yeah. For now, I don't have much experience doing it. I've been interviewing a few people here and there, but for right now, that's the plan. And then we'll see how long that lasts.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Chad, what do you? I mean, you had very little experience, and we're still learning on the job when it comes to this stuff.
Absolutely.
But the kind of thing that just from the passion of it, and if you're talking about a subject that you care about. The information can kind of go on forever. I don't know if you ever hear Chad talking about a squat, but it's basically no one else exists when he's talking about something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
I
mean, it's so fun to talk to people and learn stuff. I mean, that's what a dream that is. We're all trying to do that just day to day. And that, with your course, that's like a setup week for people to go talk to people, and it's just like a dream vacation. So to be able to do that day to day and reach out to amazing people is just a dream job for sure.
Yeah, you've been in the community for so long, and obviously you're passionate about it. So this is a little bit of an obvious question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I'm curious to see how you're going to answer it. A question that I like to ask a lot of people, especially that have been in the community for as long as they have, or been doing what they've been doing for as long as they have, what is it that has kept you in CrossFit for all these years? I mean, you're talking about these new things that you're helping to create with these new positions. Now you're looking into starting this CrossFit podcast. I mean, you're still hustling, in this community and for this method that is CrossFit that we all love. And so aside from the love, is there anything that you can pinpoint to as to why you're still in the community and passionate enough to strive the way that you are?
Yeah, that's a deep question. I think really what it is, what I've enjoyed most about this community, and I don't want to sound cliche because it is sort of a cliche answer, we're changing lives, but when you actually get to engage with people, and I felt this as a strength and conditioning coach, where I used a lot of what I'd learned in CrossFit over the years to coach my athletes. But when you see their eyes light up when they learn something, or when they go out on the field and perform and they realize the hard work they did with you over the summer is paying off, and that stuff is true, like they put the time in, so now they're reaping the reward. Take that to the people who train in my gym, when their eyes light up, when they finally, I say, yes, that's a great squat, or that looks great, keep doing that, and they feel they're getting better at stuff. And then outside of the garage, when they go home, they're like, yeah, I went on a hike and I felt better, I did this with my kids and I felt better. Those moments that happen over and over and over again, and then people reaching back to you saying, hey, I've moved away, but I'm still doing what you taught me, and I'm teaching other people how to do it. Or I remember what you said about nutrition and I'm putting into place now, my whole family's doing it. Those moments right there where you are actually realize, that you are changing lives and helping people with health and fitness, it's addicting. It's really addicting. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you actually able to do much day-to-day coaching at this point with the positions that you have and everything else that you're working on? Are you still doing that on a daily basis?
I do less, obviously, than when I was immersed in it, but I make sure I'm coaching. I have some athletes from college that still come in the off season and train in the garage. We have some athletes in the area we train in here. I'm training my kids, which is actually fun. They're both in high school now, so that's been a lot of fun. And then I have some tactical athletes that I've stayed in contact with that I coach. So I don't think I'll ever stop coaching. It might not be, the hundreds of athletes you get in a collegiate setting rolling through, but I'll always have a few athletes I'm coaching for sure.
I think that's one of the things that Chad and I love to do, right? Like, we do so much virtual, Chad, athletes all over the world, people that we coach through online setting and that kind of stuff. But there's nothing really like being able to work with someone in person. And I think that's why we still like to go out and do our in-person courses or Power Monkey Camp. There's so much more impact you can have when you can have the ability to kind of manipulate and like say, okay, you're doing this wrong, let's really get you in the right position. But that connection, I don't think, especially someone like yourself, Stephane, who just grew up in the strength conditioning world, working with people, now in an administrative role, you probably feel like you're missing a little bit if you're not at least working with some athletes on a regular basis in person. Does that feel right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's the bread and butter of it. And I also think your skills get rusty. And then if we're providing content, you don't want to be too far away from your last coaching, or at least having been in the gym coaching people, because now your content starts to divert away from, reality a little bit. I kind of equate it to trying to do programming for an athlete. A lot of people doing online programming for athletes they've never seen. Okay, so you have a starting point that's probably basic for every athlete, but you don't know, if you don't see them or get feedback or watch them move and communicate with them, where's that program going to go? It's going to divert out who knows where. So that's why I make a point of coaching. Plus, I mean, we all know when we get in the gym, though, that hour goes by faster than any other hour we've had during the day. It's just, you get immersed in it. If I could describe it, it's the one time I think during the day where I actually feel like I'm in that flow state that everybody talks about, where you're just focused on everything. You see things, you understand things, and it's very enjoyable.
I couldn't agree more. You mentioned, I'll let you jump back in there, Chad. Sorry to cut you off there, but
good.
Stephane, you mentioned you had 2 kids. I was watching an older, almost 10 years old now, video of you, a little interview with you on CrossFit website, YouTube channel, talking about your kids, and they were obviously young back then. You're in high school now, and you mentioned one of them was either going to be a professional athlete or a criminal. Are you able to now decipher what path the kid is taking at this point?
We're still a little bit on the line there, but he's turned out to be a phenomenal athlete, and so he's my younger son, Jackson. He's 14, 6 feet tall, 190 pounds, and playing his first year of football this year and doing well. So
you say freshman in high school, 6 foot, 190?
Yeah, freshman in high school.
You know how big I was?
Oh my goodness.
Freshman year of high school, I was like 4'8" and 57 pounds.
I believe that.
Kids these days, they're getting bigger and bigger all the time. And he took up lifting during COVID. So it's been a blast to watch him. And he's a student of the game, which is what I like most. He comes on and, he'll look at your guys' stuff. Chad, he's pulling up your kind of stuff. And he analyzes it and then takes it into the gym and really thinks about that. That for me, I'm really proud of that and have a lot of fun coaching him on that.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's always great to hear that a parent is able to, have a coaching and athlete relationship with their kids as well. I find that difficult personally. So I'm kind of interested to hear how that has gone for you. And, was it something that you always planned to do from the beginning? Have there been any struggles with you being the parent and the coach at the same time? Because for me, well, luckily I've got my wife, Jody, who's an incredible coach, and she coaches my daughter in weightlifting, and that works very well. It's been working beautifully. She's doing great, getting stronger and improving and everything else. And I don't really see that changing. But it's not something that I feel comfortable with or that I could do. I more enjoy being the parent, just stepping back and watching and giving an answer to a question if she has it, or there to support her in other ways. So how has that worked for you?
I think what you just said, stepping back, answering questions and being there as a resource when they need me the most has been the most successful way to start and maintain that relationship. And then there's some times where we dig, they're working out and we just dig in deeper. It becomes that coach, set to set, rep to rep relationship. But I don't force that. I don't expect it every day. I don't have a schedule for them coming home. I know they have their own lives. So when the opportunity comes around and, I'll drive home sometimes and garage doors open and there's 6 kids in there. So I'll just sit in there and watch them lift. And then slowly I just get into it. And then they'll ask me questions, and that's usually how we start the engagement. So it ebbs and flows, exactly like you said, from, hey, should I front squat or back squat today or whatever? Or, hey, can you come watch this set for me? And then I'll just hang out and be there for the rest of the workout.
Nice. That sounds like a great approach. I mean, I think I have noticed, and maybe something that has caused me to hesitate and to not take any further steps is seeing a lot of parent or athlete coach relationships that are parent and kid not work real well. And, like you said, I don't think it's at the fault of the parent. They're just being a coach like they normally are, but it's like too much. And, so there's a lot of fighting going on. And, it's like, and another thing too, is me trying to coach Jody before. That didn't work well either. She can coach me a little bit, but not so much on the other side. So it's a tough situation. And Dave, are you planning to coach your girls any at all?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we have a little gym here at the house now, and they love playing around. I give them suggestions on what to do, climbing ropes. My 5-year-old can climb the rope in our gym now. She can get all the way to the top of our 12-foot rope. which is awesome. And,
Yeah,
they both do handstands up against the wall. My 2-year-old is doing wall facing handstands now, which is awesome. So I'm not pushing at all. It's one of the things that my parents were really great with me is they encouraged anything I was interested in. The one thing that was important is you got to choose something and stick with it. But there was never this idea of like, if you don't want to do it, we're going to force you to do it. And I always appreciated that. And, I don't think my girls are going to want to do gymnastics at a high level. They enjoy it right now, but I'm not going to be the one that pushes them or coach them. I stand back and let the coaches do their thing.
Well, Dave, Alessia is going to be a weightlifter anyway. So, I mean,
I mean, I don't know how much you paid her off, but much, like when she was 3, she said she chose weightlifting over gymnastics. So Chad has been in ear.
Can't change your mind now. That's it.
So it's done. Done deal.
She's got Durante legs though, so I don't know how far she's going to go with
we can change that. We can change that.
Stephane, on the education side of things, this is a big part of what we do with Power Monkey, and we're big proponents of technique being the foundation of how people move, and we just feel like we're all about trying to make sure that people move for longevity. And I'm curious, your role is obviously on the education side when it comes to creating content. Maybe you can touch on a little bit of what you had mentioned to us about SME, things like that in terms of education. But I'm curious from your perspective, what role technical expertise has within CrossFit, and specifically with regards to what we just saw at the CrossFit Games, some more technical expertise and some other things there. But from your perspective, where should technique and where should that fall as a foundation for people's movement and education around technique when they're coming into a CrossFit setting?
You're touching on one of my favorite topics, because I do think it's one of the most misunderstood aspects of CrossFit. At the level 1, there's a lecture called technique, and it spells out clearly that there's a process for this, for getting into CrossFit and for everything you do in CrossFit. And the most important component is mechanics. We'll call that technique, moving properly, mastering the movement pattern. Now we're talking no intensity. So we're not talking with load. We're not talking with speed, under time, under duress. We want to master that movement pattern. And then the next thing we want to do is develop consistency. And so that is, okay, I'm good at it. If you ask me to do 5 reps in the air squat, I can show you 5 good reps. But now, can you do it every single day? Can you do it 5 reps, 12 reps, 15 reps? Can you do that squat pattern if I put a plate in your hand or a kettlebell in your hand? We start adding like a light bar. So now we're not talking about duress or anything in terms of load, but can you just establish that movement pattern so you're very consistent at doing it? And then only at that point where that consistency, that mastery and that consistency have happened, then we can use it as a tool to bump up the intensity. And now we're looking at using it as a tool to increase fitness. And so what I often see is too soon the addition of intensity in there. And so now there's faults in the movement, and they can be gross faults or minor faults, but there's faults in the movement. And the more you increase intensity, the more those faults come out. But the athlete can't do anything about it because they don't have the foundational understanding of the mechanics, and they don't have that mastery of the movement pattern, that consistency. So you could cue them all day long in that situation. They're not going to be able to fix it. And it's something I learned as a strength coach. I was just lucky enough. I learned initially from a strength coach named Ethan Reeve, and he was at Ohio University where I was getting my master's degree. And he gave me a teaching progression he had. And it was laid out from the air squat all the way down to being able to complete the clean and jerk. And he had how long it should take, but he said, don't worry about that. All you do is you master one step before you move on to the next. And so I bring teams into the weight room, and we would do air squats and air squats and air squats and air squats and air squats as we practice doing them. That was day 1. They'd come back the next day and they were like, good, we're probably doing some upper body now because my legs are sore. No, we still got to master the air squat. So it's air squats and air squats and air squats. And finally they were at a level that was a level of mastery that I felt, okay, good, we can move on. And then we added one more movement on that. But every day we started with the air squat. We did less, but then we went to the next movement. And so I learned that application of really being focused on technique. And I think it's critical when we're talking fitness and health, in the CrossFit setting, I think that's a critical piece of the program that has to be there. And the thing is, the coach has to be able to communicate with the athlete and tell them, you're not ready for that yet. This is where you are. These are the things we need to work on. Because what's the sexy stuff, right? Crush yourself and lie on the ground, gasping, panting, and rolling around. But you got to earn that. You really got to earn that with your work on the fundamentals, on the technique.
And I couldn't agree more. And obviously that fits in so much in line with the way that we teach, that idea of MCI, right? Mechanics, consistency, intensity, is up on the board. And at CrossFit Solace back in the day when we used to train out there, and you're saying ICM is what most people are doing, right? They have the intensity first, and that becomes the priority. Get the workout as fast as I possibly can, right? A fast time up on the board, and hopefully my body will hold up over long periods of time with that statement. Maybe when you're young, maybe when you're new, you can get away with it, but it's something that we get the question about all the time. How do you, as a coach, as a gym owner, convey that to the athlete? And, it's something that you mentioned the coach needs to do, or the owner needs to do. Have you found any ways, aside from maybe just a progression list and saying, hey, we're doing this today, especially when you have a class of 20, 25 people, whatever it might be, where people are all different skill levels, have you found a way to be able to convey that to larger groups where everyone has a buy-in, to be able to say, yeah, I want to move fast, but I understand that mechanics need to take priority?
The ways I would do it with my athletes is, first, there'd just be the discussion and the explanation. So this is kind of theoretical, a cognitive explanation. Look, you're here for a purpose. You want to be, so if it's a CrossFit gym, you want to be as fit as possible, healthy as possible, so you can dominate life outside the gym. All right. If it's an athlete, look, the reason you're doing this stuff is for your sport, on the court, on the field. So the mechanics you use in here, the better your mechanics in here for the movements we're doing, the less risk of injury. I firmly believe that. I know a lot of people say that the research doesn't bear that out, but look, in the gym, it does. If you have better technique over the long term, you have less risk of injury. And also, it will equal better performance on the field. Bad technique doesn't transfer over. Bad technique in a squat. So a guy says he can squat 400 pounds, but if his knees were caving in, his back were arching, I'm not going to see an increased speed in the 40-yard dash. I'm not going to see better agility from him. I'm not going to see the things we'd expect to see from that increased strength on the field, because that bad technique doesn't transfer. If it's a beautiful squat with the right posture and the knees out and the right depth and everything, and he went from 300 to 400, I'll see this athlete be faster on the field. So it's making that connection for the athletes. And then the next thing in class, this is more of an emotional connection, is really pointing out the people, praising the people who are doing it well. Like, look at her squat. Everybody look over here. I want you to watch this set. This is exactly what we want to see. And if I did that with a team, I pause, everybody come over here, watch this squat. First of all, that athlete's proud of her technique. Everybody else wants that kind of praise. And they're like, well, then I'd immediately see sets get better because they were striving to look like that. They had a model to follow, and they understood how important it was. I'd have athletes, we'd work out at other schools sometimes and see their athletes going, and they'd be nitpicking their technique. And I was like, at that point, I know that you understand how important this is. And it made me proud. Our football players would go to another school and see 700, 800-pound squats on the board. Maybe they were rock bottom, but probably not. And our guys would be, look, I'll take my 400-pound squat because I know my technique is awesome. Then we beat them on the field, and it was great. So
there you go. Yeah, with that, would you say that, and I mean, it's definitely a responsibility on both sides, but would you say that the responsibility of technique and priorities, the way that we believe they should be done, is more on the responsibility of the athlete or the coach, or what is the percentage on each of those? Because I think, and I'm guilty of this as well, so I'm going to say this with confidence, and I've observed it too. I think as coaches, when you're coaching CrossFit on a regular basis, it's easy to get lazy and to back off of some of those things, to not be picky as excited as you were in the beginning, or you just have had issues getting people to engage in class and be interested in technique. So you back off and you kind of give up. And again, I'm speaking about myself here. I went through these things and did these things when I coached in CrossFit. And so, for example, one example would be athlete that's new to CrossFit, maybe they're, let's say, 40 years old, they haven't done anything athletic since high school, maybe they went through a week of on-ramp classes, or maybe they didn't. They're in their first week of classes and grace comes up. And so you just kind of throw them into the fire and let them do it, and that's kind of a very specific example, but a common scenario that I think is happening more often than it should in the CrossFit community. So first, it's got to be the responsibility of the coach to, like you say, have that conversation, to lay out somewhat of a plan, and to maintain, the type of gym and the type of teaching and progressions that you want in your gym as an owner or a coach. But how much ongoing is the responsibility of the coach and the athlete?
It's great to hear you talk about that, because what you talk about is real coaching experience. And I can see, you've been in the trenches when you say that stuff, because I've experienced the same thing. And there's something that I did learn along the way with CrossFit that helped me be a better coach. And one was being relentless. And so I learned it was okay to always be coaching my athletes, and never sacrificing that. If I had to sum up my philosophy in terms of the discussion we're having here, I would say that I'm just a technical coach, and I let intensity basically take care of itself when they're ready. And so my adaptation process is probably slower than some. I don't coach games athletes. I'm not sure I'd be very good at coaching games athletes. I'd be worried about technique, and man, they have some performance goals they need to hit. And I know they marry up, but there is also a time component where they have to do it now. So I coach people where the horizon for improvement is very, very, very long. And that's what I enjoy. And I think so the coach needs to be absolutely relentless, and then impart that on the athlete. So the athlete is self-analyzing what they're doing, and also relentless on their things, and striving for better and better in technique all the time. And then, so it's got to be a two-way street, but I do think it's got to be one of those things that's ongoing, and you never give up. And here's the deal. I used to watch, Casey and Natalie Bergner well, and I used to watch them coach themselves, and I was like, oh my God, if they were coaching me, I think I'm the worst lifter ever, because all they did was hammer on technique. Like, they never said anything was good, but they were professionals. They were at your level. They were at the world-class level. I don't do that with my athletes, because they'll start to not enjoy the process. So in the part of being relentless, there's also a way to deliver that message. Like, oh, that looks so much better. Good job. Now keep pushing your knees out a little bit. Good. Nice job on that one. Feel the difference? Yeah, that's getting better. Now keep your chest up on this one. There you go. Good. Man, you're looking so much better. You're getting so much better. That kind of coaching, versus just like knees out, or chest up, or whatever it is. So there's that interaction. And because you make it enjoyable and these athletes want to come back, I think you can develop that two-way street of everybody striving for the same goal of getting better.
Yeah, it's so interesting, because I've seen it happen as well, where maybe a coach, again, they've kind of given up, or maybe they're in and out with their coaching. Some days they coach, some days they don't. But if the athlete isn't coached, they're just in there, they're doing workouts, like you said, the intensity is up, and they're there for the community, and they're getting good workouts in, and breathing hard and everything else. At some point, I feel almost every athlete is going to get to the point to where they realize on their own, if someone else doesn't tell them before, that they need better technique, that they need more mobility, that they need better movement, so that they can perform their CrossFit workouts better, so that they can see some improvement again, so that maybe they don't have that reoccurring injury that they get every 1, 2, 5 or 6 months, or however often that it is. So if you're not that coach that is relentless, like you talk about, I've seen it happen. They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to get to the point to where they want to be coached. So that's just something that, I try to remind myself of on a regular basis too. Like, at some point, even if this individual doesn't want to be coached now, they're going to want to be coached at some point. So you might as well do it now, so that they don't go anywhere. Right. Yeah.
And again, it's just communication with the athlete, finding a way to get through to them. It's just people skills at that point. people who don't want to be coached. We used to say in college, we used to say this, look, they're only going to be here for 4 years and then they leave. So I only got to outlast them for 4 years. So I'm going to coach them as hard as I can. And at the end of 4 years, if they never took anything from me, that's fine. They move on. In an affiliate, you don't have that luxury, I guess, but persistence, because you don't know why that person's resistant to coaching, or maybe they're not, maybe just their demeanor or whatever is different than what you're used to. But if you're just persistent, you will one day find that little nugget you tell them where they go, yeah, that worked really well. And then you've got them in there, because it is a big trust relationship, especially in the stuff we're doing in CrossFit. I don't know how much trust there is with your trainer at a 24-hour fitness where he sits you in this machine and then this machine and this machine. But when we know the complexity of the movements, there's a chance of getting injured if you're doing things wrong. And also the pain involved when intensity is involved, there's got to be a lot of trust between the coach and the athlete at that point. And so it's just building that slowly over time. And then once that trust is there, the coaching stuff just seems to happen naturally.
Yeah. One last thing I want to add to this topic that I think is important, because I have been in situations with athletes that I assumed, it was an assumption on my part, that they did not want to be coached. Like you said, maybe it's the look on their face, their demeanor, their, whatever it is. I just made an assumption. And then finally they come up to me one day and ask for coaching, and I haven't been pushing or doing a good enough job. So I think a lot of times as coaches, we assume, and we shouldn't assume, we should just coach no matter what.
Yeah, no. And one thing I learned, so I became the head strength and conditioning coach at the University of San Diego right off my career as a police officer, my very short career as a police officer. And I brought some of those tools from the academy with me, where I was yelling and it was like very strict. The guys were late, we punished them and things like that. I've definitely mellowed over the years. There's definitely a room for discipline. You got to have discipline in your culture, but this has got to be fun. This has got to be enjoyable. And if so, I'll kill that person with kindness and praise, and just keep working on them for the person I feel might be resistant to my coaching. Because I'm not sure what's going on, but I won't change my coaching style. I won't ignore them or anything. I'll give them more. And see what happens with that. And I found that encouragement and celebrating success, always work to do. We're not going to ignore that. There's always work to do, but making it an enjoyable process makes it happen faster and better in almost every case.
I love this idea of, you mentioned fun. You want training to be safe, effective, fun, but fun is really important, especially when you're dealing with non-professional athletes. The general population, 99+% of the population that are coming in there. Pat Sherwood said it many times better than I can, but it should be the best hour of your day, right?
Absolutely.
I'm coming here not to be screamed at, not to be yelled at and pointed out all the flaws that I'm making, but to hopefully be, have a smile at the end of the hour, to leave here a little bit more refreshed, a little bit fitter than I was the day before. And I think that fun component sometimes can get lost when we, are overly critical about, whatever it is that we're trying to convey. And I was thinking about this as I'm listening to you both speak. I had a lot of coaches over the course of my career that all taught differently, and we're all very good technical coaches. But the ones that I gravitated towards and the ones that I wanted to emulate as a coach now were the ones that created an environment that I wanted to be in the gym. Not only because they were giving me good advice and helping me learn, but I wanted to be around them. They made the technical side that can sometimes be a little boring, but they made it fun. And I think that's such a critical piece, especially when you're not thinking about a games athlete. You're not trying to get on a podium. You're just here for the best hour of your day, and making it fun is such a missed opportunity, I think, by some people, because you focus on some other things sometimes.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, when we look at the hierarchy, obviously technique is very important, but the fun factor in there is, I don't know if it's more important, but it's right there with it, because they're not going to learn that technique or stick with you or be around long enough to benefit from what you have to teach them as a coach if it's not a fun environment. And I do think part of CrossFit is that it was, if you go into an affiliate where they got it going on, people are joking and laughing and enjoying it, and it does look like a fun activity. If there's too much stress because this workout's going to hurt, or I'm afraid of this workout, the message, I don't think that's the right message. I mean, there's some people who love that and they gravitate towards that, but overall, that's not what I'm looking for. I know there's going to be pain involved in there and it's going to be hard. I want to have fun, and not every day can be just a grind.
I'm curious from your perspective, Stephane, you've been teaching forever. You've probably gone to more CrossFit gyms than most people. Are there a few coaches or gyms that do this really well that you've come across that you can highlight and say, X coach or X gym are a really good example of this kind of a mentality?
I had the opportunity to kind of watch CJ Martin at CrossFit Invictus grow from the beginning. A funny story, we actually used a truck from the University of San Diego. They probably don't know that, but they're probably not listening right now. But we used a truck from the University of San Diego to go get his equipment up in Anaheim, about an hour or so away, and then drove it back. And we dropped off all his kettlebells, his bumpers, and his bars onto the floor of what was going to be Invictus. Giant mound of dirt in the middle of the floor and a drop ceiling that was just in disrepair. And I said, "When are you opening?" He goes, 30 days. And I was like, "Oh my God, well, good luck," and to see what he's done. And I don't know how much CJ in the early days, he coached a ton, but right now, if you look at the coaches he's had and who are there now and the way the classes are, and they coach games athletes, they have a competitors program and then a fitness program and everything. When you go in there and watch a class, that's what you see. You see people fun, engaged, they love it. I've coached now. I've had people when I was coaching military athletes that went to Invictus, and they would come back to me and say they were having a good time and talked about their workouts, and I knew they were in good hands. So that's one that I've seen. In the old days, there was a really family feel. CrossFit Marina up in Huntington Beach was a great gym. We used to host level ones there, and every time we came in, it really felt like a family. And those are the things that attracted me to the gyms that I liked. It was that feeling where everybody knew each other. Curtis Bowl or CrossFit Rainier, talk about a family operation. His kids were at the gym. He and his wife coached, and they did things not because it was put on the schedule like dinner together or a barbecue, because someone just said, let's do this. And it sounded like a great idea because they wanted to hang out together. That, I love that stuff.
Yeah. It kind of seems to happen organically. It seemed like if you get the right setup, you get the right space, you get the right coaches and staff involved, those things kind of happen organically. You can't always force them. They kind of need to happen on their own.
Totally agree.
I wanted to switch topics a little bit and jump to maybe something. I'm just curious from your perspective, the game side of things. You mentioned that you don't really see yourself as a games coach, but this is the other end of the spectrum. This is the 0.5% of the population, probably much smaller than that are looking to compete at a very high level. Curious what your thoughts are on the games role within CrossFit. If it does have a role for, general population at all. And then I want to talk a little bit about what we saw at this most current games a couple of weeks ago. But first question, just around where you see CrossFit Games role within kind of what you do.
I think so. I mull this question over a lot, and I ask people about it a lot because I see two paths really for the game. So I do see it as an expression of where CrossFit can go, like where people can take it. And I'm not talking in terms of competition. I'm talking in terms of what the human body is able to do and accomplish. The biggest, and Chad, you'll like this, at the 2009 games, I was a judge there, and I think the winning snatch was 240 pounds. And I do believe the guy put his knee down and then stood up with it. To see where just that little small example, to see how far that's progressed. Now we got people snatching. I know it's not Olympic numbers, but still we're over 300 with good technique. The bar's moving fast. I mean, everything. It's a real snatch. Right. To see that, and that's happened in everything. I mean, you look across the line, that's happened in everything. So I do believe it's a good demonstration of where you can take CrossFit. I do worry that it being so prominent, it might scare some people off who can't relate to that. So I think our military guys, our firefighters, our police officers, high school, college athletes coming from any sport, they can connect with that. They understand what it is like to compete and then to take something to a high level. And they've been in those kind of environments. They've been in a weight room or they've been around that stuff. Someone who's brand new and their doctor said, hey, you're pre-diabetic, you're overweight, maybe you're older, and you need to get healthy. So I suggest you start a fitness regimen. Well, if they're looking around and they fall on the games, they might immediately be like, I can't even conceive doing that. Mm-hmm. But that's not what happens. So that's not what's happening at your local affiliate. It might be for, the one person in there who's trying to be a games athlete, but the rest of the people aren't doing that. So I just think that CrossFit has to communicate very well what the games demonstrates. This is the pinnacle of physical achievement as we know it now, using the CrossFit methodology, all the different variations of the CrossFit methodology. However, for regular people, look, this is what it looks like.
It's a tough task, right? It's not
very tough.
Because, for the people that are already in CrossFit, they understand the difference, hopefully. Right. Or, maybe some people that are thinking they're going to be a games athlete and the reality hasn't sunk in yet. But they understand the distinction between being a Matt Frazier and what they're doing on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The hard part is getting the person that just sees the games on TV and to say, is this what I'm going to have to go and do if I step into my first CrossFit class? And I think that's the really challenging part, is how do we go from, I think Eric Rosa mentioned, wanting to go from, 10 million participants to 100 million participants in the next 10 years. How do you make that jump and make that leap to get the everyday person that's just training and convince them that it's a worthwhile endeavor?
And that is the challenge. And it really struck me. Coach Hinshaw told me a story. He went for his first CrossFit workout. He'd been invited by Annie Sakamoto, and he sat outside the gym and he was looking in through the door and he saw them doing burpees and then cleans, I think. And he had no idea, like, those weights looked really heavy because he hadn't really lifted before. And so he actually didn't go in. And my thought was, if a world-class athlete, so a triathlete who's done the Ironman and finished second in the Ironman, was nervous to go in, what's a regular person who's never done anything like this? What are they feeling? And so I think the challenge for CrossFit, if we're going to hit that goal, and I don't really care about the number, what I care about is that anyone who wants to use CrossFit to defeat chronic disease and to maximize their potential in health and fitness has access to it, or feels like they have access to it. That would be my goal. How do we get rid of that obstacle of going in through that front door and just starting? Because I think then we can count on our coaches and the community environment where a person realizes that even after their first class, like, okay, I can do this. And it might not be for everyone, but at least we can get them in there to try it out and see what it is. I think that's going to take a lot of communication. Hopefully the podcast will help with that, highlighting our affiliates. So as much attention as the games gets, our job will be to be highlighting our affiliates and what that actually looks like and what's going on there, and have them coming onto the show. And the plan is to highlight them every episode, give them a piece in the podcast so we can show what an affiliate's doing, where they are, and what their secret sauce is for making people better. And then Nicole Christensen runs the professional coach, the TPC, again, digging into that stuff and getting it out. The hardest part is, because I understand our podcast, at least initially, and the TPC are all internal. So how do you reach outside the CrossFit bubble and get the people who are on the fringe and looking in? That's going to be a challenge. And I think, again, hopefully the podcast will reach communities like that. Social media. I understand Coach Glassman shut down our social media for a while there, and he had his reasons, but I do think the benefit of social media is it connects communities. People who are not related doing something come together through a post or an idea, and it connects them. And so hopefully we can find ways to do that.
Yeah, definitely not an easy answer, and it's a tall task ahead, but the passion involved and I think the people involved are all moving in the right direction and make it happen and get CrossFit to be more visible than it is right now. And I mean, in our worlds, it's everything, right? You know, it's wake up every morning and it's every article that we read and being in the gym and thinking about how we can make people better through our techniques and things like that. But would love more and more people to be able to see how great of a endeavor and a lifetime.
And that's the thing. Look how many people you guys are reaching. So sometimes I take a step back and I try not to put all the pressure on HQ or whatever we call it, because the best way to get people engaged in CrossFit who aren't engaged in CrossFit is to have people who have learned about it reach out to their friends, their family, and talk to people. So that organic word of mouth that got us to 10 million or whatever, I think is still our most potent weapon to keep increasing CrossFit's growth and the message of it around the world.
I couldn't agree more. Chad, you got something?
No, I'm just taking it all in because it's just reminding me, I've never been a part of something. I mean, I'm a weightlifter. I'm in the weightlifting community. I'm still competing and all that stuff. And yes, I want people to be a part of that community, but it's because of CrossFit and so many people coming into weightlifting through CrossFit, but I've never been a part of something that I've wanted. So anyone, like, I want everyone to be a part of CrossFit, because I know how powerful it is, that it's changed so many lives and it can change so many lives. And I think a part of this challenge is, not getting them to want to use CrossFit for their health and longevity and all that stuff. But first, to get more people to understand that they can use it, that it is there available and a method that they can use to do that, not just something that people compete in, but something that is, again, that's the tough part that we're talking about. We have less than 1% of the people that do CrossFit are competing at that high level. And so to me, that's the base challenge, is just getting more people to understand that CrossFit can be used, not just like running or I'm just throwing stuff out there, Orange Theory, or I don't even know much about Orange Theory, but any other method that they can think of, or going to 24-hour fitness and doing curls or whatever else they do at 24-hour fitness. I don't even know. I think maybe they have platforms in there at this point, but, not just like that, but better. CrossFit is, I mean, we can still say that CrossFit is still relatively new, right? But I mean, can we now say that it's proven that CrossFit is better? I mean, can we say that at this point?
And I agree with you. And I personally obviously think CrossFit is better. I think the great thing about CrossFit also is it's adaptable to your personal community. So if you are an affiliate owner and a coach, you have your version of CrossFit. I mean, there are founding principles, kind of like nutrition, right? There's some things you can't get away with in nutrition. There's some founding principles that you have to follow, but then you can make it your own. And look, if someone goes to a CrossFit gym and it's not for them, but we pique their interest in health and fitness and they end up going to 24-hour fitness but now they know how to use the platforms there, or they go to Orange Theory, I'll take that as a win. Yeah. I'll take that as a win, because if you really back up what's the ultimate goal of CrossFit, it's to change the world. I mean, this is what Coach Glassman told me his goal was. It was world domination, and I'd laugh, but he didn't laugh. It was world domination and changing the landscape in health and fitness forever. And he's already done that. Can we do it? Can we continue and do it better? Absolutely. But if we lose some people out of our affiliates and they end up going somewhere else, but we influenced where they're going, and so it's a little bit better than it was, because now there's functional movements in there that weren't in there before. There's metabolic training. I doubt there'll be the technical expertise. That's the one thing I really worry about, but it could be there. And if maybe one of those coaches took their level 1 and took it back to Orange Theory, so they have some technical expertise, or they keep learning through the CrossFit system, all the technique stuff that we offer, and they take it to another gym, it's still a win for us.
Well, I think that has to be a part of the proof that CrossFit is better, because it's influenced everything. I think
absolutely
it's influenced what they have in 24-hour fitness. It's influenced Orange Theory. It's influenced every, fitness method that I can think of that I've seen pop up recently, that, even stuff that I knew of before, what they were doing and how it's changed for sure because of CrossFit. There's no way they'd be doing some of the stuff that they're doing without that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
We're almost getting close to the end here, but I have one more question for you. Again, we're talking about the changes recently within the last couple of years, and one of the most recent changes within CrossFit is the new CEO that's come in, Don Fall. And I know you had an opportunity to interview him at the games and spend a little bit of time with him. I'm curious from your perspective, what you got out of the interview, what you've kind of been able to understand about his temperament, his personality, his goals for what the company is going to look for and the brand is going to look for into the near future. Are you excited about what he's bringing to the table? I'm curious kind of what you think.
Yeah, very excited. Very excited. I had a great interview with him. It's a great interaction as well. He's very genuine, came across as very genuine. And the thing that struck me most is he is about CrossFit. So he's not about himself. He's going to be a behind the scenes guy, and all he wants to do is help us get the job done that we need to get done. So, I mean, I don't know if it was his time in the Marine Corps. My grandpa was in the Marine and always told me, I said this in the interview, that the Marine Corps was the best leadership training he ever got. But to me, a leader is not someone who holds themselves out front for their own gain. It's someone who takes the lead in helping others achieve the goals that they want to achieve. And that's exactly the sentiment I got from him. He knows that people like Nicole Carroll and Dave Castro, who are old time, original CrossFitters from the source, have a vision for where we can go. And then I could keep naming. There's a Nicole Christensen and a Mikey Giardina and Eric O'Connor and on and on and on in our community, old time people who have a vision for where we go. He just wants to facilitate them doing the job they need to do to propel that vision forward. And to me, that's exciting, because there has been a feel for, I don't know if it's been seen outwardly, that there was a little bit of a corporate feel starting to come with CrossFit. And the appeal was always that it always felt like a startup. Like we're just move fast and get better. And yeah, we'll clean up, the mess behind us if something happens. But to me, that's the way we should always be doing this. We have to move at lightning speed in this world, especially in this health and fitness environment. We can't sit on our laurels. We can't get complacent, and we have to keep pushing the understanding of CrossFit to the world so that they understand how important it is for health, fitness, and today the battle against disease, metabolic disease that we're seeing everywhere. And so if you bog that down in a corporate structure where you're slow to react or slow to pivot or slow to bring new ideas to the market or reinforce your methods, you're not going to win. So you'll be drowned out in the noise. And I really think with his experience, not only obviously in the Marine Corps, but what he's done in as an executive in the tech industry where you have to move fast, that he'll understand that. But he also has a great understanding of CrossFit and where we need to go. And he's getting good advice from people where we need to go. And he just wants to facilitate. That was the feeling I had.
That's exciting stuff. A lot of cool things on the pipeline with yourself and the new positions that you have and some of the changes that we're seeing at HQ. We appreciate you coming on today, Stephane. Appreciate it. And hopefully we're able to get you out at our next Power Monkey camp, which I think is on your radar, potentially on your schedule. It's coming up in a few weeks, and we'd love to be able to hang out with you a little bit more in person. Before we get you out of here, are you cool with answering a couple of quick kind of fast questions here?
Yeah.
First
I'm
one.
on the hot seat, huh?
All right. Yeah. What sport or discipline do you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Oh, these kind of questions. All right, here we go. I'm 6'5", so weightlifting.
Yes. Dave, I've got quite a little streak going on here.
Yeah, you do. I don't know what's going on here.
I mean, he threw out Bergner's name a few times during the recording, so I was hoping that's what I was going to hear. So
yeah, it was kind of expected. All right. Next question. Anyone that you've come across recently or someone that you admire that think would be a good person for us to interview on the podcast?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm gonna do this. I had an interview at the games with a guy, Scott, from Battle Cancer. I think he'd be great. I think you guys will get along great, and his mission is amazing. So I'll connect you guys.
Amazing. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Nice. Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that recommendation. Next question. Any books that you've come across here recently that you'd recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, I got this recommendation from Nicole Christensen, I believe, and it's it might not have been her. Maybe I recommended it to her. I forget who recommended it to me, called The Comfort Crisis. Michael Easter, I believe. Man, I tell you. So when you guys talk about Power Monkey Camp, that's my thing for getting out of my comfort zone right there. That would be very exciting. So it's really about how we can easily get complacent in our daily lives, and we have to find challenges that help us expand our vision of what we can do. He describes these challenges. There's two goals or 2 points to the challenge. One, you have about a 50% chance of success in doing it. And the second point, don't die. So that was kind of the framework of the challenges. But I mean, for example, this guy will go hunting in Alaska for 30 days. No phone, no nothing. He's just hunting with his buddies in Alaska, and he's not a hunter. So it's something that was unfamiliar to him. Just an example. So The Comfort Crisis by, I believe it's Michael Easter. Great book.
Nice. I'm gonna have to check that out for sure. It sounds like a book that we should all read a little bit of every day to continually remind ourselves. But man, it's been a pleasure to see you again. Like I said, it's been way too long. I didn't realize that you might be coming to Power Monkey Camp, so I'm looking forward to seeing you in person and chatting a little bit more. But before we get out of here, do you have any parting words, or where can people keep up with you? Anything you got coming up you want folks to know about?
Well, hopefully we'll have the podcast airing soon, so people will be able to reach out there, and hopefully with questions, suggested guests, all that stuff that will make this tied into the community. I'd love for people to visit CrossFit.com and just get used to the main site. The main site used to be the hub for all that stuff, and I know we're always working on it and trying to make it better. But the days of getting home or getting up early and first thing you did was check the main site, I miss those days. So it'd be cool for people to renew their relationship with the main site. And if you guys would do show notes or whatever, I'm happy to put my email in there and people could reach out. So
awesome, man. You're bringing back memories. I used to be on the main site every day. I remember those days.
Remember those days?
Looking on the web, the main site, just, for workouts or articles or whatever else it may be. But yeah, it would be good to get back in that routine. And I'm looking forward to the podcast myself. I'm going to subscribe right away. So as soon as that thing's out, I'm looking forward to listening. And I'm sure our listeners will as well. And to our listeners, as always, guys, we very much appreciate you listening in. Be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. Also check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Ollie Chad. And on behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your host. I'm Chad Vaughn with Dave Durante. Until next time, guys, thank you all for listening.